Good evening, and welcome to Viking winters across Scandinavia, Iceland, and Greenland, where long nights pressed in and households stayed warm without fireplaces or chimneys, inside low halls of timber and turf, built tight against cold winds. The usual big fireplace wasn't the hero here. Small, smart choices were. Tonight's story is a warm jacket zipped against a long night, and if this channel helps you drift and learn, tap like and subscribe only if you actually enjoy it. No rush, and only if you want more calm history at bedtime. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. Bright morning or quiet midnight or something in between. Exhale and loosen your shoulders and hear the slow whir of your bedroom fan. Ease your focus from this room toward a doorway in the far north, where the air is crisp and the sky sits low. A low doorway makes you duck as you step into a turf and timber hall. Thick sod walls hold back the wind, and a packed earthen floor leads you toward a dim center. Warmth here is small and steady, like a tiny bead of tea steam near your pillow. A shallow hearth rests in a ring of stone at the hall's heart. Coals glow low, and thin smoke drifts along the beams before finding the vent. There's no chimney. A timber screen closes off the far end, where animals sleep. A cow shifts, and fleece rustles on the other side, their breath making a soft curl in the cool air. The byre shares its quiet heat with the room. A small vent pierces the roof near the ridge. A narrow, shuttered slit in the wall catches a slice of night and a thread of cold. Openings stay small to keep the warmth inside. A soapstone lamp burns with a wick of twisted fiber dipped in fish oil or tallow. Its light is steady and pale, and the smell is faint and oily. An iron hook over the hearth holds a pot that hums with a slow simmer. This is a winter home tuned to hold heat, not to blaze. The roof works like a low lid on a pot, keeping the warm layer down where people live. Bedding lines the benches, and thick wool layers hang from pegs. Bodies, clothes, and walls share the work. People wear warm wool indoors and sleep on raised platforms along the sides. Each choice here has a purpose, from tight seams to shared air. The cold is kept at the edge by planning and habit more than by fire. Turn to the bones of the house that keep the heat in. You duck under a low beam into a compact room. The air smells of damp wool and warm tallow, and a low lamp flame steadies the dim. Soot-dark beams press low overhead. Turf blocks and timber planks make the walls. The turf holds heat like a packed blanket, and the planks tie it together into a stiff shell. The doorway is lower than your shoulder and set inside a small windbreak entry that turns the breeze away before it can reach the hall. A narrow door thumps shut against the breeze. The ceiling hangs close to the beams. Because walls were dense and ceilings low, therefore less fuel was needed. It's like living inside a well-insulated camping cooler. The door itself is short and tight. The windbreak entry works like a small airlock, so a gust hits the outer nook and loses force before anyone lifts the inner latch. Drafts paid rent here, so they got a smaller door. Gaps are chinked with moss, wool, and turf crumbs, and a heavy hide helps seal the latch at night. The roof timbers are dark for a reason. No chimney breaks the roof. Smoke from the hearth stacks up under the rafters and slides along the slope until it leaks out through thatch and seams. That saves heat and keeps wind from pulling warmth away. But it means stingy eyes and tickly throats if you sit too close or stay upright too long. The price of tight walls is a slow fog of smoke, and the beams remember it in black. The thick build matters more than bright flame. The mass of turf smooths the daily chill, and the low ceiling catches what warmth the people and the cooking give off. Sleeping benches tuck against interior walls, and woven hangings tame the little drafts that remain. Insulation, not size of fire, does most of the daily heating work. Now, meet the hearth that ran without a chimney. Turn toward the shallow hearth and the way smoke was managed. A low, open hearth sits at the center of the packed earth floor. A ring of stones keeps the coals in place, and a bed of ash lies under them. An iron tripod stands over it, with a swinging hook for a pot. Smoke drifts up and eddies under the rafters. A thin plume drifts and flattens beneath the roof. The rafters above are soot blackened from seasons of this. Sleeping platforms and chests stand back from the hearth for safety. A bowl simmers on the hook, while people settle close on benches. The wide room is shaped by low partitions and by the warmth that lingers near the coals. Eyes prickle a little. The beams give a faint creak as they warm. Irritated lungs were a price they knew. The warmth spreads sideways more than up. A small vent sits near the ridge, shaped by local carpenters and fitted to this roof. A wooden shutter clicks half open to taste the night air. An older hand judges the draft and nudges the latch, testing the flow with a palm. The gap can be narrowed in a gust or widened in still weather. In some houses, it is a custom adjustable shutter or a sliding board under turf, set to guide the plume. The right setting depended on wind from sea or valley. On bad nights, a gap at the gable or a lifted tile does the same job. Because chimneys weren't standard, therefore the smoke rose freely and helped cure the roof. The thatch and the timbers dried out day by day. Resin and tar baked into the wood like a seal. Soot made a skin that pests disliked. Roofs lasted longer under that film than bare wood ever would. The price shows in those rafters and in chests that wheeze after a long evening. Children and elders sat where the air was softer, and bedding was moved if the draft shifted. It's basically a slow cooker for your ceiling and bugs. Air freshener, it wasn't. The air carried terry notes and a bitter edge. Those scents helped keep lice, mites, and rot at bay. Hanging lines above the hearth held fish, meat, and gear for days. Each took a touch of preservative smoke. Hooks and racks near the smoke helped dry curds, hides, and nets. The heat sat low and steady, gentle on turf walls and on stores slung from beams. Pots simmered for hours, and people warmed each other while the roof stayed preserved. Fuel scarcity shaped every decision about this fire. Every stick had to count, and embers were nursed more than flames. Let's turn to where the real warmth came from, in careful fuel and steady embers. Peat blocks stack like dark loaves by the wall, and bundled driftwood leans in tidy sheaves. Cold air slips along the floor, and the cords are rough against your fingers. An earthy smell rises from the peat, brown and damp at the edges. A faint fish oil scent drifts from the hall, thin but steady. Families cut this peat with a long spade in summer, lay the slices to dry on the heath, then stack them tight against the weather. A soapstone oil lamp sits on a shelf near the workbench. A lamp's thin flame licks along an oiled wick made from twisted plant fibers. The bowl holds blubber, or fish oil, and the wick is trimmed short with a pin so it sips, not gulps. Soot climbs to the beams in patient lines, and the glow is small and calm. Timber is rare this far north. Because timber was scarce up north, therefore, households burned peat, dung, and driftwood. In Iceland and Greenland, trees were low and slow, so peat became the reliable block. Dried cattle dung or gathered sheep droppings were pressed into cakes in summer and burned when the wind turned cruel. Wood was saved for tools and boats, not big blazes. Driftwood came in with storms. Families walked the strand in late spring and summer, after heavy seas had thrown logs and planks onto the beaches. Households claimed stretches of shore by custom and law, hauling the wood with ropes, cutting off nailed ends if a wreck had delivered them. Salt hung in the air, and wet sand thudded under boots. The best pieces were trimmed, bundled, and leaned to dry under the eaves. Small flames did the daily work. The lamp was pulled close to hands that spun or mended, so its heat doubled as light. The hearth kept a bed of embers for cooking, while lids and thick pots trapped heat like a tight fist. It's like charging your phone on airplane mode, where every watt saved mattered. Luxury item: a log. Oil and peat were rationed with quiet math. Someone counted blocks by moonlight. Someone measured the lamp bowl with an eye for habit. And someone fed the fire with a pinch, then waited. Then another pinch. A spark was not wasted. Trimmings from driftwood shavings started the day, and dung cakes were slid to the edge so they smoldered slow. The room smelled of earth and sea fat, and the light sat low to save the night. A low, steady heat filled the longhouse, never dramatic, but enough to keep breath from frosting near the beds. Beams went glossy with soot, and walls darkened as weeks passed. That slow burn stretched precious stalks into the last hard weeks, when the snow made a muffled world outside. Sooty interiors were the price of making small heat last. On good days, a thicker stick might feed a stew to a stronger boil, but most days, the flame stayed modest. The lamp's little line of fire marked hours without shouting for more fuel. Every choice kept the stores standing, and the stacks by the wall looked like a winter clock. Fuel stayed scarce, even with all this care. When fuel is precious, bodies and animals become heaters too, and a house learns to pull warmth from anything living. Let the lamp's glow guide you toward the byre, where warmth has hooves. Breathe in slowly through your nose. Let the breath sit, then spill out longer than it came in. Feel the cool at the tip of your nose and the gentle warmth as it leaves. Let your ribs widen a finger, then settle. Thick turf and timber walls kept the wind from biting. The roof sat low because heat rises. Therefore, the warmth stayed where the people were. Gaps were few and tight, so the air inside stayed still. The hearth stayed quiet and steady, more coals than blaze. The hall felt close and safe, with quiet breath and low voices. A small lamp held its bead of flame. A quiet flame steadies, barely moving. Its light touched wood and skin in a small circle. Shadows moved in slow steps along the wall, and the ceiling kept them near. Relax your jaw. Let your teeth part and your tongue rest. Let your shoulders drop. A sleeve gives a soft rustle. Wool under your palm feels softly resilient. Your face smooths like snow after wind. Small, steady heat one winter. A lamp. A banked hearth. Bodies and walls did quiet work. A warm bowl in your hands helped. People stayed near what gave off heat. Big bursts faded fast, and the little constant warmth kept life simple. Take one more easy breath in. Let it out softer and longer. Any stray detail can fade to the edges. Let hard corners round off, and let quiet take the middle. Night hours gathered people into shared warmth and tight sleeping spaces. Quiet talk sank into slow breathing. Blankets pulled up and beds tucked close, now ease toward the gentle animal hum and the warmth they give. A low wall of timber and packed turf breaks the longhouse in two. On the far side, slow cow breaths mist the air in pale puffs. A cow shifts, hoof muffled against straw. This is the byre and hall layout, a living space paired with a stable, with only boards and low partitions between them. Lanolin clings to wool cloaks and mittens, a waxy, sheepy note that sticks to your fingers. The stable smell is warm and slightly sweet from hay and dung. Not sharp, but steady. Smoke threads upward through a vent, softening the mix. Curtained sleeping platforms line the hall side, raised a little off the floor. A curtain's edge brushes your knuckles as you climb onto a platform. Layered bedding lies there, wool blankets over stuffed sacks, with cloaks hung to dry on pegs above. Because animal bodies emit heat, therefore families shared space to raise temperature. The partitions slow drafts, yet let warmth seep through. So the hall side holds the gentler air. Bodies add to it. People sleep close, shoulder to shoulder, and the platform traps their heat. Think of it as a biological space heater with hooves. You would not walk in and feel summer, but you would notice your breath mist less and your bare hand hurt less in the air. A few degrees is the difference between teeth chattering and a steady, slow night. Cozy, unless you're allergic to moo. The setup came with trade-offs. Aside from the easy warmth, you got flies in a thaw, fleas in the bedding, and mice looking for grain. Families fought that by regular cleaning. Manure was mucked out, fresh straw was laid, and bedding was shaken or aired on bright cold days. Smoke helped keep insects down, and cats helped with the rest. Wool did its part. Cloaks kept people warm when they stepped across the byre for chores, and mittens saved fingers when buckets and tools iced. At night, those same cloaks layered over blankets, and the greasy lanolin shed damp so fabric dried by morning. Pegs near the platforms turned the hall into a quiet, drying rack. The byre and hall plan trimmed the fuel bill that was paid in peat, brushwood, or dried dung. With shared heat, a small lamp could be enough while people slept, and a modest hearth could handle the evening. Bedding, wool, and animals worked together, night after night, to save wood and work. In a place where storms could lock the doors, that savings was as good as a storehouse. Warm people still needed warm meals, and those came from summer labor, banked for winter. Let the smell of stew pull you toward the stores of fish, meat, and grain. A ladle lifts steam from a blackened pot into the cool room. The shared hearth sits in the longhouse center, and people take turns at the handle. This is communal cooking at a shared hearth. The pot hangs from an iron hook over coals, steady and low. The vessel is iron in some homes, soapstone in others, because stone holds heat well. Hands pass bowls along the bench in an easy chain, and the lamp flame gives just enough light. A wooden bowl meets your hands. Barley and fish scent rises, mild and salty. Condensed breath curls as you sip from a warm rim. Barley thickens the broth just enough, and scraps of fish give it body. Hooks along the beams hold stockfish, hard and clean, and smoked meats in storage. A barrel lid lifts with a wooden creak. Inside sits sour dairy in tubs and skins, curd saved from summer milk, and sharp whey for drinking. Strips of dried fish pack light and keep for months. Smoked lamb or goat hangs darker near the roof, away from damp. This pantry is a winter bank, counted piece by piece. Most meals start with water set to boil and a handful of dried strips. The fish softens as barley swells, and the lid keeps heat from drifting off. Because summer was spent drying, smoking, and souring, therefore winter meals were mostly a matter of water, heat, and time, like living off a well-organized pantry and a pressure cooker. A small ember bed and a patient pot can turn hard food soft, while someone mends a shoe or spins wool. Not every pot runs rich. Shortages are a real risk, balanced by careful rationing. Someone measures with a steady ladle and counts days to thaw. Broth is stretched with grain or bits of root, and bones simmer long to draw every trace of fat. Menu change? Ask the weather. When wind traps boats and drifts hide paths, meals lean on what sits in barrels and racks. Reliable hot meals conserve fuel and keep energy even, and a warm bowl also heats the fingers. Shared bowls make the room calm. The hearth gives more heat to the crowd than to the walls. So this routine suits the house. Full bellies, free hands for winter work and stories. The pot clicks back on its hook, the lid settles, and the steam thins to a soft line. Let the steam fade into the rhythm of looms and game boards. A warp-weighted loom stands against the wall. Loom weights nudge each other with a stone-on-stone click as the weaver beats the threads. The top beam hangs the warp. The loose stones keep the tension true. A spindle whirs to feed new yarn. The fleece was washed, teased, and carded. Cloth grows in firm bands for cloaks, bed covers, and sail repairs. The work sets the pace of the room. A tallow lamp throws a steady pool of light. A board game piece slides across a smooth surface, and the counters answer with a soft clack. Taffel pits a king and defenders against attackers, so even a child rehearses strategy while fingers stay busy. Carved dice pass time between chores, and small bets are bragging rights, not coins. Long days indoors test patience, so play and talk keep cabin fever in check. Carvers set knife to wood. Spoons, pegs, sled runners, and tool handles come out of scrap while shavings curl to the floor. Rope twisting turns wool or bark fiber into strong lines. The twist squeaks now and then. In coastal homes, rawhide and seal strips become lashings for sleds and boats. Nalbinding works warm mittens and socks in tight loops. They last where snow and salt bite. Needles of bone or bronze pass from hand to hand. A distaff tucks under an arm, and the spindle keeps spinning whenever there is a pause. Evenings bring storytelling as a shared habit. In Iceland, they called it Voldvaka, the evening wake that paired work with words. People trade kin lines and law points. Riddles and travel tales keep places alive in the mind, because travel was risky. Therefore, winter built skills and stories at home. Call it the original off-season skill boot camp. HR was the elder with the sharpest memory. Spring finds households ready. Lines are coiled, mittens stacked, hull planks checked, and harness mended. Loom webs are finished or rolled and saved for thaw roads. Packs sit near the door with spare rivets, cord, needles, and food. Hands are trained, and minds hold a shared plan for fields, fishing, and trade. Households emerge spring-ready because winter wasn't idle time. All of it ran on modest light and careful fire. Let the room grow dimmer now, and turn your attention to flame, air, and safety. Take a steady breath in, hold it for a beat, then let it out slow and feel your shoulders drop. Keep 3 anchors close. The low roof, the steady flame, the quiet work. Homes stayed low to trap warmth. A small lamplight steadied the room and gave a touch of heat. Work moved calmly, stitch by stitch, spoon by spoon, and the hours passed. Unclench your jaw. Let your tongue rest gently against the palate. Outside, a faint drip taps from a thawed patch at the eave. Inside, cloth rustles as someone shifts on a bench. Think of the simple habits that carried a house through the dark weeks. People shared benches and beds. Wool lay thick on backs and under shoulders. A warm bowl sat in your hands and sent heat into your chest. Small fuels were saved and used with care. Because tight spaces held in warmth and many bodies added more, therefore, nights stayed bearable and the cold edged back from the center of the room. Take one more easy breath. Let the edges of the hall blur, the lamp a soft coin of light, the roof a quiet lid overhead. The calm pace held, and winter moved forward in small, sure steps. Next, attention turns to the things that made this safe and workable. The tools, the vents, the little choices that kept harm away. We will bring a spark to tinder and watch how carefully the flame is managed. A small kit holds fire steel, flint, and tinder fungus. The iron lip meets stone with a quick scrape. A bright spark bites the soft fungus, and an ember runs through it. The air carries a metallic tang as more sparks fall. A soapstone lamp holds fish oil with a twisted wool wick. The ember touches the wick. There is a soft hiss, and a low flame steadies. Evening builds into a routine many homes knew by heart. Vents are cracked, coals are banked, tools are set within reach. A coal glows under ash like a small red eye. A vented shutter rattles once and settles. Venting and night banking are a household custom. Because oxygen was limited indoors, therefore vents and timing of fires mattered. Shutters were opened in short bursts when fuel was added. Lamps in the hearth burned hot at dusk, then settled low before sleep, like cracking a window while running a space heater. Carbon monoxide detectors were called common sense. Simple habits turned smoke and flame from hazard into help. Lamps sat on stone or clay, and wicks were trimmed short to cut smoke. Coals lay under ash until dawn. Then a dry splinter raised a flame. A water bucket waited nearby, and kids learned the path around heat. A low lamp glow, the quiet rustle of wool, and a warm bowl in your hands made the room feel safe. Suffocation and fire risk were minimized by routine. Different landscapes tweaked this same plan in useful ways. Step outside to compare fjords, islands, and a far Greenland farm. An upside-down ship shed sits at the yard edge, its timbers rimed with frost and sticky with tar. Snow crunches under your boots, and the air carries a sharp pine tar bite. Frost sparkles along a boat's keel under a plank roof. On wood-rich coasts, houses grew from straight trunks and thick planks. Pine tar for ships and sheds kept rot at bay and sealed seams tight. Boarded walls cut the wind, and rafters held moss and thatch like a padded cap. An axe rang in the trees, and sap made fingers tacky. Across Iceland's lava fields, timber ran short. Farmers raised turf houses with driftwood frames, each beam hoarded under clear rules of driftwood rights. Trade connections brought extra boards and tool steel when seas allowed, and neighbors tracked who owned which stretch of beach. Thick sod held warmth, and small fish oil lamps dotted rooms with low, steady light. The house smelled earthy, and wind hissed at the eaves. Farther west in Greenland, trees were rarer still. Walls mixed stone and turf, and heat came from bodies, bedding, and soapstone lamps that could take a long, hot burn. People relied on seal or fish oil where trees were scarce, and they rendered blubber into fuel for the long dark. A distant surf thumps under a pale sky. The lamp's flame trembles but holds, and a faint oil tang lingers. Because each landscape offered different resources, therefore Norse households tweaked the same core plan. Think of it like the same operating system, different regional app store. Customization wasn't a luxury. It was Tuesday. The method scaled cleanly. Insulation first, small flames close at hand, and careful planning for food and fuel made the pattern work on coasts, on lava fields, and on icy bays. The shed falls behind as winter light lifts at the horizon and boards lose their glitter. Let the long winter fade and carry the warmth back to your room. Northern winters were met with simple choices. Tight walls kept the wind out. Low, smoky air held warmth inside. People stayed close and shared heat. Food and fuel were planned and saved ahead. In the end, insulation, smoke, shared warmth, and planning beat any big fireplace. Not big fires. Strong walls and habits kept life steady. Thank you for staying up with me this late. You made room for a quiet story at the edge of sleep. Now, let your own rest take over and do the simple work. Nothing more is needed. If sleep is near, let it roll in like a quiet tide and carry you. I'm grateful for your calm attention. You listened softly, and that sets a kind tone. It makes the history feel close. Holding space for slow stories is its own kind of skill. If it feels good, take one slow breath in, then let it out. Unclench your jaw and let it sit easy. Let your thoughts thin like steam and drift past the window. If this helped you wind down, a like and a subscribe would be a gentle help, only if it felt right. If you do, it helps more calm seekers find a soft landing. Then forget the screen and drift. May your night be steady and easy. May the morning meet you kindly when it comes. Let the longhouse dim and slip away, and keep the small comforts you liked. A low lamp in your mind and a warm bowl in your hands. Fade to the small, steady sounds of your room.